We continue this beautiful book about the lost Olympiad, Stockholm 1937, with round 15. The book is divided in two parts. The part 1 is a general description of each round with a selection of one game from that round. The second part is a description team by team with the games that the author was able to find. So really a beautiful work of research. One thing, don't mind the board notation, because clearly this is not 8, this is 1, right? Because that's white. I don't know why they made the board like this. They should have made the board with at least 1, 2, 3, so on each side one can write his own notation. However, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's quite clear the algebraic notation. So round 15 was played Thursday, August 10th, from 5:40 in the afternoon to 10:40 in the evening. The game is played between Keres, that was one of the top players of that period, and probably up to 1960 something, one of the top players. Unfortunately, one that never reached World Championship level, because there were a lot of stories with the Soviet Union and Russia, and it seems that there was a kind of conspiracy theory before the term was invented that said that Keres was from Estonia, I think, and it seems the Russian tanks arrive at his city in front of his house, and they stop there because it seems that Keres practically in a very important tournament had to favor Botvinnik and let Botvinnik win the World Championship because the Russian wanted so. And in exchange, his city, house and so on would be spared, family, because obviously in the time they were not really joking much. But I think this conspiracy theory was debunked by Keres himself, that said that it wasn't true. The problem is that Keres unfortunately died in the 1970s, and 1970s he was still under the Russian influence, and Botvinnik was still very well alive. So you don't know if he said that it wasn't true because he was afraid of some possible retaliation. And of course, there are many stories one could say. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I hope those who watch the videos, they will add their own commentary and ideas, because it's nice. It's nice to have a community that talks about some stuff, that we like it or not. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. So Keres was white against Reshevsky from US. Reshevsky was not really from US, I think he was from Poland, but in that time maybe it was a part of Russia, who knows. I mean, we are speaking of a 1900, the geography was a little different from today, right? So Keres start with E4, and Reshevsky plays E5. Keres has a beautiful collection of games in two books that I have, that I will show you. Okay, let me go to get them. Okay, here they are. These two books were recommended a few years ago as books that one should read, because Keres games are very beautiful. But more than that, because they will teach you everything you need to know about E4, E5. Now, I must admit that I'm a sinner, I didn't read them. I bought them because I thought they were really worthy, and some books really get value with time because they get out of the market, you cannot find them anymore, so it's kind of interesting. But that said, I'm sorry, I maybe read a couple of games, and then obviously life goes in the middle, and everything goes on and off. So let's continue with the game. Knight f3, Keres was white, okay? And knight c6. Rejewski was in fact one of the top player in the world, also maybe up to 1950s, maybe 1960s. So obviously to beat him, it's kind of a big feat, okay? Bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, and knight a5. This familiar maneuver is slightly mistimed. Black would do better to castle fourth, according to Keres, so as to have the QR, the queen right, the queen, defended in what follows. So the queen side, maybe it's intended the right of the queen, but the queen doesn't have arms, so so it should have said the queen side, right? Bishop c2, c5, d4, queen c7, a4. The point is that if black were already castle, it could continue with bishop d7. But now that would lose a piece after a takes b5, a takes b5, b4, because this is not protected. So that's what it means, right? That now you cannot play bishop d7 because this is not castle, and you must solve the situation there. So that's interesting. Okay, b4, c takes b4, c takes b4, h3, finally a castle, knight b d2, and bishop e6, knight f1. This is a typical maneuver, okay? And so we must pay attention to this type of maneuvers. Why? Because it will happen in our game, it could happen in our game, so when we don't have any idea, we can remember, oh, but look, Keres played that, so it makes sense, right? I could play it too. Rook f c8, knight e3, and g6 to stop from jumping to f5. An example of Rejewski independent thinking. He voluntarily weakens the black squares around his king in order to support a possible knight h5, after which he will be able to put pressure on the white queen side, just as did at Kemery. So it seems that there was another game played at Kemery against maybe Keres, in which this plan probably worked. But maybe Keres studied that game, if he lost it especially, and improved, right? So that's the point. b3, tit for tat, white keeps the black knight out of c4. Knight h5, bishop b2, bishop f6, rook c1, e takes d4, knight takes d4, queen d7, and rook b1. Preparing an audacious combination. Can you see what is the audacious combination? I cannot see it, so at the moment. So let's see what is the next move, is rook c5. So try to pause the video, I will pause it too, and trying to find what is the idea behind here. Okay, now let's continue. It seems Keres played a very interesting move that I honestly didn't think of. Knight d f5. Boom! Why this move is kind of strong? Because this is protected, so you cannot really take now, right? But it would be a mess. So let's see what happens. Here it says a sacrifice more surprising than that it would be now, as it has become almost a routine move against kingside fianchetto formations. The strategic point is to remove the king bishop, so which is this one. If that is accomplished, Rejewski's king position will really be weak, and so will be the isolated pawn, right? The main lines are g takes f5, e takes f5. Let's try to see it on the board. G takes f5, e takes f5, bishop takes f5, bishop takes f5, rook takes f5, and queen g4. Boom! Knight g7, and bishop takes f6, probably winning the game. You say, why winning the game? Because if you play this, this is gone. So what do you play at this point that prevent the checkmate here? I don't know. Let's say you try to escape. I don't know. Take, goes here, take, and what do you do? So yeah, this is beautiful, but let's see one thing. For example, this was move 22, and here we are move 26. So yes, it was a 4-move combination. I think most of the time 4 moves are really top level chess, and for top level I mean the grandmasters that are in the first 10, 20 places. They normally are able to calculate 4 moves in advance kind of fast, because obviously the clock is ticking, no? So the clock is the problem. Everybody of us is able to calculate 4 moves or 5 moves, me too, but maybe I take 15-20 minutes. If Keres took only 5 minutes, the difference is clearly huge. By the way, there is another line. I would like to bring back the position to what it was, so we can see also the other line. Okay? Okay, we were more or less here. Black obviously played this move, rook c5, but is not able to stop knight d f5. We saw a line that was with g takes f5, but in reality the first thing I asked myself was, why I didn't play this? No? And in fact the author also covered this line. Now keep in mind, this book was written I think in 1985, so he didn't have computers. So I'm kind of grateful that he did this work, because it's a line that I ask myself, how would you continue, right? And this is often what happens when I read some other books. They don't put the moves that I actually ask myself, what if black played that? And that for me is kind of important, and show that maybe the author wasn't a grandmaster, because when they actually put some moves that we normal club player, average club players think about is because they are not grandmaster, because the grandmaster most of the time they discard them and don't even write why they discard them. Okay, in any case, after rook takes b2, g takes f5, okay, e takes f5, bishop takes f5, knight takes f5, rook takes f5, and this time there is bishop d3. Attacking this one. Here is the problem. Notice that now the e file is already covered by the rook, so this cannot really escape much. Huh? So you defend with knight g7, right? But g4 solve the problems. And here it says these are Keres own variations, so maybe he found them in one of Keres' book, because Keres wrote books and articles, so maybe he wrote his own annotation to this game. Notice it's the first time also for me that I watch the game, because I want to be spontaneous when I do a comment to the game itself. Let me go back and bring the position back to the diagram. Okay, I hope that I put the position back what it was. By the way, unfortunately the book is bad in the sense that it's old, it has never been opened, and now that I open it, it's cracking apart. I mean, books should be made to be read, right? Instead, a chess book, I think we just buy them for having them over the shelf, and so that's the real problem. Okay, so after this beautiful move, Black, which however is a top player in the world, played bishop takes f5. Keres thought that Black's best line would have been bishop e5, after which White would have continued with bishop d4. Instead, Rejewski played bishop takes f5, e takes f5, bishop takes b2, rook takes b2, leaving Black without bishops and with two eccentric knights. Obviously he called them eccentric, but we know from a chess saying that the knight on the rim is dim, right? So the problem is that these knights control many less squares than in the center, right? So, and then there is the problem of all the weak squares that are here. Okay, Black continues with rook e8, and White played bishop d3. But it seems that later Keres thought that queen g4 was the move to play, because it was threatening that queen takes b4. So once Black plays queen b7 to defend the pawn b4, he would play queen d4, and this would gain tempo to pressure this pawn. Okay, so that's it. But in the game was played bishop d3, queen c6, queen g4, and queen b6. Rejewski allows himself to be forced into passivity. From a player usually so aggressive under pressure, one would have expected the resolute rook c3. I don't know, resolute queen c3, rook c3, but when if this goes down and this goes down, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So he played queen b6, he played a passive move. Maybe he was tired. I mean, we are at around 15. Around 15, we've probably played in like 7 days, so it's kind of tiring, right? Rook b e2, rook c e5, and here there is another diagram. Generally, when there is a diagram, sorry if I continue to tell you the same thing over and over, but you need to pay attention because generally they put it for a reason. Here the continuation was f takes g6, f takes g6, and of course maybe the diagram should have been here, because at this point white plays another amazing move. So if you want to do something good for your chess, try to pause the video and guess what will be white's next move, okay? That's really important for you guys. Try to find it out. He played bishop takes g6, boom. Keres had an infallible eye for this sort of king field sacrifice. He gets 2 pawns for the bishop and will have a withering attack against the exposed king, though the detailed winning procedure is hardly calculable. So the difference is, today a computer would play this kind of sacrifice with reason, he knows that he's winning. In that time it was more artistic, and heart you feed it in your gut in order to play it. You had to be courageous, right? A kind of lion heart to play this kind of sacrifice, because you cannot be sure 100% that you are going to win. And generally, I tell you, in a tournament game, yes, please try to be sure of what you're doing, because you know, when they have 3-5 minutes to think for a move, they will find a refutation. Okay? H takes g6, queen takes g6, and king h8. By the way, I don't think the game lasted a longer time, but let's see what happens. But this makes it easy. Rejewski was, of course, already short of time, with 20 moves to make before the time control. The time control was at 40 moves. If I remember well, in that time was 2 hours and a half for 40 moves, so they really had time to play. Okay, it seems maybe this was better, or this. Keres analysis gives this move as better. I don't want to show you the analysis because it's kind of long, but let's see what happens in the game. Knight f5, beautiful, because obviously, look at this. Rook 8 e6, attacking the queen. Queen takes h5, king g8, queen g5, king f8, queen g7, king e8, and now there is another blow which finish the game. Knight takes d6, boom. Okay. A magnificent revenge for Kemeri. Kemeri was another place where they held a tournament, the Pearl of Stockholm, Tatakover called it. A month later, these two were at each other's throats again in the double round tournament of Semmering-Baden, where they won 1 each. So imagine how many times they played. By the way, here there is a post-war, obviously World War II photo from 1952, where there is Stahlberg on one side and Keres on the other. So the book has also some historical pictures that we like to see. So here, probably, if he played this, after this, he has lost, right? The game is lost. And I hope you enjoyed this beautiful game. Next is round 16.